Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Wendy Silvers, and you have arrived at the Awakened Mother podcast, weekly dialogues with leading edge teachers, spiritual teachers, coaches, parents, people that are dedicated to the upliftment of humanity and the empowerment of women and mothers in all different expressions of their expertise. And I am so happy that you are here this morning. It is a joy for me to introduce this next guest, whom I know very well, having worked with her for several years. And I'm happy to share her with you. And let me tell you who is here with us this morning. Kendra Thornbury. Kendra helps soul-centered women and evolutionary leaders create spiritual and financial freedom so that they have a greater impact and make more money. You know, that's a really important thing, y'all, right? So we're gonna break any taboos or limiting minds. If you're like listening to this in your mind, you're going, what? Money? Yes, money is spiritual, y'all. So all while being true to who they are. She is passionate about making it easy for those called to serve the awakening on the planet to effectively help more people while doubling or tripling their income. Kendra E. Thornbury, MA, is an internationally highly acclaimed coach, spiritual guide, speaker, facilitator, humanitarian, and entrepreneur. She's on the cutting edge of spiritual thought and conscious business practice, blazing a new trail and wealth revolution. She has led retreats in and traveled to some of the most beautiful and sacred places on the planet, from Sedona to Kauai to Peru to Bali. Deeply devoted to the reclamation of the feminine as an integral force of change and evolution, her unconventional business and money approaches lead women to build a 6- and 7-figure businesses grounded in purposeful contribution and personal liberation. Her sweet spot as a skilled facilitator leaves women raving about the impact of a single retreat on their healing and empowerment. She's been called a spiritual growth ball buster. Very true. I would say limiting ball buster there. A transformational guide of epic proportions and a shamanic business coach. She has served as a board member for the Women's Business Exchange, Women's Way Red Lodge, and has been president for the Washington chapter of the International Coaching Federation. A personal growth junkie, her adventures in challenging the status quo included packing her belongings in storage and traveling for 5+ years. She has traded her traveling laptop lifestyle for planting roots and is happily living in the beautiful hills of Boise, Idaho. Labels aside, she considers herself a human being simply doing her best to walk a path of authenticity and integrity while making a much needed difference. So put your hands together and welcome Kendra E. Thornbury. And the crowd goes wild.
Thank you, Wendy. So good to be here with you.
So good to be with you, Kendra. We have shared so much together. So such a deep soul connection. I first met Kendra when I attended a retreat at the very strong urging of a mutual friend of ours, Stephanie Dawn, who said to me, "When you have to come with me, you have to go." And I was like, okay, kind of. I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? So it was amazing. And I have worked with Kendra for 2 years, which was fabulous and expansive and challenging and transformational. So I would love to speak with you on the heels of the word transformational. We hear so many people in the personal growth movement, transformation, transformational. Will you speak to what is transformation to you?
Ooh, such a great question. Again, thank you for having me. So good to be with you and your audience. Transformation. Well, we are at a time, a great turning, an evolutionary point, choice point, I think, as a collective, as you know,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're here, Awakened Mother podcast. You are are a leader of this great movement that's needed and necessary and required of us. And so we can't evolve, we can't grow, we can't progress, advance without transformation. And what comes to me to share is transformation is an experience of moving from one form to another. It can be a metamorphosis, it can be a shifting of your own state of being, your own identity, that includes, I think, a process of being honest and being confronted sometimes, right? You know me. I mean, let's just get real fast here. I think there's a lot that happens, as you said, in the industry that is a bit too fluffy for the reality of what's asked of us in transformation. So, it can be messy and uncomfortable, and it's needed as part of the catalytic nature of transformation, right? So we can entirely move from one mindset, one way of being to another. It's a movement, and it's an impulse and an urge of life to transform. Nature is never not moving. It's never not growing to the next expression of its being. So I think, in part, what's happening for us right now, individually and globally, is that, we're being asked to get brave, I think, to choose our transformation rather than our transformation choosing us, which each have their own pathway. So anyway, I'll start with that. I'm curious how that feels, and what arises for you in that.
All of it. And I really appreciate what you spoke to about the times we're in, about it being, I believe that there is a call on all of our hearts to become more of ourselves, so that we can be more of a source for a transformed world than we have ever been before, because there's just shit popping up all over the place. Like, it's oozing out everywhere in so many different aspects of society. And the thing that strikes me about transformation is that it is not a one and done. It's this, for me personally, it's a continual unfolding. Right. There's moments when in my life I'm like, oh God, this is up again. I thought I dealt with it. It's like, oh wait, so it's back in a different way with different information, because I have shifted and I have transformed. But the only time we really graduate is when we leave these bodysuits and go into the invisible. And then that's a whole nother dimension of learning and growing and unfolding. So I really appreciate what you shared. And I think of this phrase of, let go or be dragged. It's like you can choose transformation or you can be dragged. Yes. Which and I feel like awakening and transformation ride shotgun. Because so many times, again, this word awakened, awaken, awakening, awakened. It's not a one and done. And I feel that it's a disservice to people to be given the message that, oh, you're going to do this and it's da 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 da. Right? You work with leaders, and we move from level to level to level. You have an incredible background and mastery. So taking someone from 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 figures and beyond, that is, a coming to, a came to. It's an awakening, right? It's that, that.
I love it. So well said, all of it. Yes.
And when you work in the realms that we work in, and you specifically work with prosperity consciousness in business,
Mhm.
Will you speak to the weaving of awakening the
Mm.
feminine and the masculine in business? Because you're
Mm.
so masterful again at the we
Mm.
need the feminine for this, but then we need the masculine for that.
Mm. Oh, thank you. I feel so humbled by your reflections and praise. Thank you. And oh gosh, there's so much for us to discover and unfold here together. For me, with the invitation into the weaving, as you said so beautifully, of the feminine and the masculine, I think it's important to presence that the reweaving of those aspects of our being is an integral part of entering back into what I know in my deeper being to be our birthright for prosperity. So when we talk about prosperity consciousness or wealth consciousness, for me, it's a returning and a remembering of our true nature. We're not meant to be a species that's constantly in survival mode,
Right.
constantly striving to just do whatever it is to resolve the next crises. Those are mechanisms of what I see as a scarcity consciousness, a lack consciousness that was derived from a system that benefits from gaps between the haves and the have-nots, that perpetuates great divides within ourselves, within our communities, and that keep some people more powerful than others. And I'm putting quotes around that because, as you know, on some level, any power that's coercive or taken or manipulative really at its core has no veracity. It has no true power. So I want to presence that as part of the context, because my passion, as you well know, in this evolution, this awakening to our prosperity, our well-being, our wealth, and to our financial sovereignty, in part is about unlearning and unhooking from a system that on some level really does not have everyone's best interests at heart. I mean, we know,
No,
So I
please,
mean, this is the work you do, and
I
I
just appreciate your presencing that. And
thank you.
yeah, it's such a hard, I think for so many people, it's literally mind bending. So
It
please
is.
continue.
Oh yeah, it is mind bending, and that's a part of awakening.
Right.
Again, I'm all about getting real, and I'm not a spiritual bypasser, and I think that there are a lot of voices and trends about the nature of awakening, how to approach it, what it looks like, what it expresses like. And it can be the bright shiny object, it can be the persona of a particular arrival into, I've reached the pinnacle, follow me in this pursuit. And as you said so beautifully before, it is, I'm going like this, I feel that spiral, and it's not just a one and done. Now, this society wants us to believe that anything is a one and done. It's formulaic. It's like you do this, you get that result. Now, there are places where that's so. Coming to your question about the masculine, the masculine's very direct and it's structured, and you want to get that nail in this board, put a hammer on it. It can be very straightforward, and it's necessary, it's needed. And we have the feminine aspect of life, which is creation, and it's flow, and it's the blossoming, and it's the emergence, and it's the collaborative energy. And this is an energy primarily that has been so oppressed for hundreds and thousands of years. And to me, the conversation of being an awakened mother, being an awakened leader, awakened business person, we can't invest in that and be in the discovery of it without bringing forward the feminine aspect of life and bringing it into right relations with the masculine aspect of life. You know, it needs to be a sacred partnership once again to really enliven and enrich and optimize all of what life is meant to be. So I'll pause there.
Thank you. I really appreciate
Yes.
that. I think that's very true. To have this integrated understanding of how the energies work.
Yeah.
As well as what I learned in working with you were the ways in which to step into that masculine in terms of making an offer, in terms of providing material, in terms of doing things in a way that I personally would hang back. And you would call me forward. You'd be like, yeah, you know, like that's the wounded feminine. We're let's, or maybe you didn't use those words. Those were my words. It might have been the collapsed, you know, there's that whole concept. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, and this would be a whole nother podcast that we could have, but I was just thinking in this world that we're living in with the binary, non-binary, you know, I'm wondering, like, nature is nature. It doesn't think about gender, right? There's the blossoming, there's it's the receiving, and then there's the blossoming. And so I'll put a pin in that, because I think it's a conversation, like, well, navigating these times and what you're speaking about in terms of the awakening, right? There's a call, there is a broadcast that has been sent out to humans to really, I think the invitation is a very strong invitation.
Yeah.
And so it's about all are called who chooses to step into that. So in that call, in the work in terms of helping people to manifest their inner gifts, which is what you do in the programs with Wealthy Goddess programs. So how does one create new pathways so that, you know, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, regarding what's possible with their business?
Ooh, that's a big question. How does one create new pathways to step into what's possible? Yeah, in their business, in their leadership, and in motherhood. I know that's one of your passions and expertises. So
thank you.
Yeah, well, you know, the first thing that arrives at right here in my mouth to speak is to have the conditions and the environments that truly champion you and support you, you know, that are well enough, that are sincere enough, that are high vibe enough to meet you, to understand you, to see you, and to genuinely want to bring forth the best in you. And unfortunately, many of us have had encounters, or even still are having encounters with settings, with groups, with communities, with individuals that are the opposite of what I'm describing. So, you know, I'm super vigilant about and discerning about the environments that we allow ourselves to encounter, and who we let and what we let into our life, into our domain, into our brains. And now more than ever, with all of the stimulus and all the various ways that we are distracted, you know, I jokingly, but it's not funny at all, you know, the weapons of mass distraction. You know, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to, and I think this is where the masculine energy can be really useful, is to set boundaries, to set terms. So that's one thing that's primary, you know, the environments, the systems that we're in that are conducive to the manifesting of the new pathways. I think the other thing that comes to me is recognizing that you do have power. And I know that can sound really basic, or, I know that you attract clients and communities that are, community members who are advanced, and you've done a lot of work. And yet again, with all of what we are faced with, there are moments, I am having moments in this next stage of my awakening. I've been through a very significant initiation the last couple of months, and I'm changing. I'm on a new threshold. And, there are moments where I encounter these old voices, these ways that the system indoctrinated me and us into, I'm helpless, I'm powerless. I only have so much say. I only have so much influence. So I think in terms of creating new pathways, it's to remember and stick that stake in the ground, that knowingness that I have choice, I have options. And I can do this, and I will do this. And again, it sounds so basic when I say it, but I know I've needed to remind myself of it as of late, And then the last thing I'll share, because we could do a whole workshop on this, creating new pathways, is to clear out, to release, to let go of the places, the patterns, the people that are not in alignment with your intended manifestations, that do not fortify your mission, that do not enhance or, enliven, what matters to you most, what you value. Yeah.
So well said.
Mm.
Thank you for that. And
Yeah.
one of the gifts of being a transformational leader is that we get to grow too. It's not static. And I went through a leadership program that I just loved. And there were so many takeaways. And it builds upon work that we've done together, work that I've done on my own, new work, and work that I'm offering to my clients. And it really has to do with self-leadership. So in our world, the world that was created by man, there's this challenge that's on the table about bodily autonomy, sovereignty, agency over your body. And I really appreciate what you're saying in vulnerability and transparency about the voices that come up, right? I jokingly, it's not my creation, but I call it the itty bitty shitty committee. It's like that, that those voices that want to take you out, that talk to you in your own voice. And in one of the old paradigms of our world, it's a lot about blame. It's about blame and shame. It's about pointing the finger, forgetting that there's three pointing back. And when I hear you talk and share your experience, and I move into what I've experienced, so much of this has to do with really stopping and noticing the patterns, being, as you said, really conscious and discerning and deliberate about the food we feed ourselves through what we actually read and listen to and put in our bodies, the soul food, the people that we hang around with. And it is a very specific path to be that discerning. It requires a commitment to being in integrity, in alignment with one's values over what's trending, not at the exclusion. It's not like we can't be in the world, but it's our vision is about being. Who are we being in our work, in our lives, in our relationships? Who are we being? And I submit that were most people to live from the place that you're speaking about and what I'm speaking about, we would have more unity. We would have people saying, wait, this is my body. These are my choices. We would have more compassion and generosity and less divisiveness and competition and possessiveness around things that are completely unnecessary.
Yes. Brilliant. Yes.
So we build our platform. One of the things that I remember so well is that you speak very confidently and with huge conviction about your work is your life. You get to choose, you get to create, and I'm doing a circle, right? That circle and this spiral. We get to create a business based on who we be and what we can offer other people. Yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, to chime in with all of the beauty that you just offered. You know, my mission is freedom, liberation. And, you know, what you've just described is, you know, elements of a system that is unfree, individuals who are unfree. I don't know, is that a word? Any rate, you know what I mean, that are not free,
Enslaved.
that are enslaved, that are shackled by, that are chained by these constrictions and yes, you know, and sadly and egregiously and horrifically, you know, we have in the last number of years seen an exposure of, you know, tactics and ways of thinking, et cetera, that just give light to some of what, you know, really has been in the underbelly or the undercurrents for a long time. So on the surface, we can say things are worse, you know, they're getting worse. You know, I choose to hold a higher knowing that, you know, this is a part of the awakening, and it's a necessary component of our transformation. So at any rate, you know, what happened for me in my personal journey, you know, you've heard me share one of my stories is that years ago, I cannot believe how long it's been. I'm going on my 17th year in business. So around that time, 18, 19 years ago, you know, I traveled to Nigeria, Africa, and that was a big turning point in my life relative to being a change agent, getting extraordinarily uncomfortable, you know, being willing to take new kinds of risks that I hadn't up until that point. And when I returned to America, I recognized my privilege. I recognized some of the mechanics of corruption in ways that I hadn't, because I was exposed to it in the Niger Delta, which at the time was the 5th richest region for oil in the entire world.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it really rocked me, Wendy. You know, I returned really with some deep self-reflection and getting real with myself about what was next for me, for my purpose. And you know, so you mentioned choice, and I think that yes, there is choice involved. And I've also experienced that my purpose, if I don't choose it, things get increasingly difficult. And you know, that's where, you know, the term, the choiceless choice comes in for me. But you know, as part of this whole systemic racket that keeps us shackled, you know, when I caught back from, in terms of tying the different threads here together in this weave of our time together, is that I realized as I entered into my reflection and my meditations and my prayers that I was dedicated to the ultimate freedom and prosperity that I absolutely know that we can achieve on this planet for every single being. Nobody needs to be left out. Nobody needs to suffer, you know, while other people flourish. Any rate, I recognized that it was my sacred duty to step into this work, get out of my way, humble myself. And there was one part of the thread there. About then, yes. So when I dedicated myself, like, what is my work to do? It was really clear to work with women, entrepreneurs, healers, pioneers, artists, midwives, because we need the currency, we need the distribution of money and wealth in the hands and the hearts of those who are truly invested in creating solutions and ways of being that work for all. So, you know, that's how I landed into my particular groove, if you will. I never thought I would be coaching on money mindset or mentoring women on growing their businesses, but it is a vital component to us taking back our power and creating sovereignty. I mean, you mentioned, you know, what we've been facing around bodily autonomy, you know, and I know it's controversial, and, you know, I would propose for our consideration. I mean, maybe not propose it, you know, I think some of us we just know that, you know, we've been faced with impossible choices the last couple of years. Paycheck or this medical procedure. That's not choice.
I really agree. I love what you're,
yeah. Oh my gosh, we could spend the whole day talking.
I know. It's
I
so
know.
wonderful.
So good.
I mean, it's really, I've shared with my clients about how when you move into what your vision is and you're speaking to your vision, you were inspired and compelled by what you lived, what you experienced, to really activate your highest potential and to help others do the same. Now, the lens that I have chosen, or that chose me, and it's so funny because I remember, you know, being told about motherhood, and I thought, oh my God, that is just so like unsexy. We're talking about like motherhood, like, oh, you know, and yet, you know, it called me. So that it's that listening to the call, and it can change, right? It can morph into other expressions, but following that vision has allowed you to uplift humanity. I mean, I really can identify, because I feel like my call is also freedom, and it's about uplifting humanity, and it's about creating the next generation. And how do we do that? How do we empower women to take back their sovereignty, to take back their choice, which is what you're speaking to? And what I keep hearing in my ear is money. There's this huge, I don't know if it is still as prevalent, but I feel like it is, because I know with some of the clients, you know, I can see it, is this whole disconnect between spirituality and money. And it's connected. So what say you about spirituality and money?
Yes, money. Well, you know, this is one of my favorite topics, and, you know, as someone who, prior to my journey being in Africa that I spoke to, who really did come from a paradigm and a belief system that money is the problem, money is the source of the evil, money just perpetuates the greed, it perpetuates domination. And, you know, these are qualities and descriptions of a society and a culture that I want nothing to do with. So yeah, there was a time of which I was quite repelled by money and even had a righteous attitude towards money, that as it, like I was better than it or I was holier than it.
Yeah.
And I realized pretty swiftly as I took my leap of faith into entrepreneurship that I wasn't going to make it very hard if I kept that, or make it very long or very well if I kept that attitude.
Yes.
Because I couldn't pay my bills. Excuse me. So whether we like it or not, we do live in a domain and a system currently that has money as a part of our exchange system. Whether that's going to be what is in the future, 10 years, 20 years down the road, that yet to be determined. However, money, I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, maybe there is. I'm always open to something new, but you know me, I'm just putting out my opinion. You can do whatever you want with it. One of the reasons we're in the crises we are, whether it's personal or within your family unit or collectively, is because money has become associated with and a tool of power.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have money, you don't have power. You don't have money, you don't have choices. I don't get to direct my terms. I don't get to say, you know what, this company has values that are so outside. You used the word integrity before. They are so outside of my integrity. I'm leaving this job. Instead, again, people have to trade. They have to trade their paycheck and tolerate and, their own dignity. Right, which is so erosive to our well-being. I would say it's one of the reasons why people are sick on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
But so I knew that it was time, if I sincerely is going to be an agent of change, to have an influence, to really help usher in a new paradigm, that I needed to take responsibility for my power and therefore my relationship with my money. So to me, money is, you mentioned accountability before, and, getting out of that blame mindset, because then I can be, oh, it's the system's fault.
Right.
Versus, oh, wow, Kendra, it's really time for you to, take the reins here. And money did that for me. And as such, it really took me into a whole nother path of my spiritual development. As I encountered places that needed to heal, as I encountered shadowy places, as I encountered the parts of me that felt unworthy, or like, oh, people aren't going to want to pay me for what I do, which I hear women say all of the time. Right. I mean, long story short, because I know we have a certain amount of time together in this awesome space, money is energy. And it wants to grow. That's what energy does. So I've come to view money as a very natural phenomenon, a currency of energy and vibration. And we get to use that however we choose. And in that regard, whatever spiritual principles you want to infuse with your relationship, it's up to you.
Yeah.
So my weaving, it's not even weaving anymore. Like I'm like going like this, like money and spirit they're sacred allies, and they're together in a unified mission.
Yes. Yes. I think it's a high spiritual charge to magnetize great amounts of money and to use it in a very discerning, specific way. And I thank you for helping me so much back in the, when I came to the retreat, and then when we had in Sedona and Santa Fe and then Bacara. Oh my God. It was, and the enchantment was the word. It was just like, this is so yummy. And, walking out on my balcony and looking at the red rocks and thinking, I'm worthy, and worthiness. There's no, there's no God in hustle. There's no, God is everywhere. I want to rephrase this. Okay.
Yes, but both and in that. Yes.
Right? Because there's no higher juju. There's no juice in being worried and concerned about how you're going to get food on the table, clothes on your back and your kids' back. There's nothing regenerative about that.
Oh, So good. Absolutely. And that's part of the work that you do with, your awakened mothers and, your Awakened Mother Academy and, all this amazing work that you do is you're helping, this reinvention, this restoration, this regeneration of the archetype of the mother, the
Yes.
practice of motherhood that is robust and it's alive and it's juicy and it's whole, rather than this like, oh, we're broken and we're just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And that even being something that like proves that we get the medal of how great we were as mothers or as women. I mean, that was some of the work that I needed to do, was just like, oh yeah, I kind of do have some righteousness about like showing how hard I work, as if that adds to my value as a woman,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yes, I absolutely know.
We
And
need
that,
nourished mothers. And I'm so grateful for all that you do in this movement, Wendy.
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I believe that when the greatest contribution a mother makes to society is are the children. And one of the most maligned populations in our world are the women and the children. So when you care for the women, you care for the children. So hence, the Awakened Mother Academy and the book that I'm finishing. And I'm so grateful to women like you who have shown me a different way of being. And I'm in the middle of writing a newsletter, and I kept thinking about you, Kendra, because
Mhm.
the words "I believe in you," you were one of the first people that in all of my life
Mhm.
that said it to me, and I heard it. And I remember at the very beginning, right, when you said that to me, and I was just like, what? You believe in me? Like, what does that mean? And then you said it a couple more times, and I thought, it reminds me of the parenting axiom, or even it can be in any truly in any area. When you have that one person, a healthy, conscious, loving, consistent presence in your life that keeps saying to you, I see you, I believe in you, so much healing happens.
Yes.
And then prosperity happens. Like when you offer your programs and you pour yourself into them, there is a resonance that you leave, that I carry, right? You impart that. And I know you are having the Wealthy Goddess retreat coming up, which
Mhm.
is so fabulous. Will
Oh,
you speak to the Wealthy Goddess
oh,
retreat?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I've led in this annual gathering for I think 14 plus years. And what I know to be true is that when women gather together in a sacred space, and I mean you just described an element of it, this genuine space of I believe in you, and a genuine space that allows for us to be all of who we are. I mean, it's one of the most powerful medicines on the planet. And
Yeah.
we don't need more information right now. I'm in an industry and I've watched it grow. Again, I'm almost 17 years into this work, and there's so many formulas and there's so many 1, 2, 3 step manuals, and those have their place. Don't get me wrong. But especially in this time, we need transformation. We don't need more information. And one of my superpowers is to create circles, create spaces for women that really get to the essence of who we are. And, from there, anything and everything is possible. Because an aligned woman is an unstoppable woman. A woman who remembers the truth of who she is doesn't get caught up in the web of other people's bullshit. A woman who's living true to her design,
Yeah.
her unique, rare, beautiful design, is a woman that is just consistently supported by the universe. So in any rate, every year is unique and different because of who's in the space, right? I'm all about feminine leadership, which is about the emergence and the unfolding. And so it's coming up again in December, and it's the first time it'll be live. I haven't been live for years, been doing it virtually. And yeah, I haven't been live with women since the summer. I've been blessed to be initiated into a new offer where we take a group of women leaders down the river. We go into the wilderness. So, this event is an opportunity to traverse in the wilderness of your own being and to come out clear and empowered. And any rate, I could go on and on, but that's just a little bit.
Beautiful. Well, I will make sure that everyone in the liner notes, you are going to find ways to connect with Kendra and to get more information about the Wealthy Goddess Retreat so you can attend. And you can also connect with Kendra and her team. She has an extraordinary team that is there to support you in thriving. And when you thrive, then everyone else in your life thrives. So it's really very self-actualizing to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Because there's an empty gear cannot move. So it's really really important. So Kendra, thank you so very much for being here today.
What a pleasure.
Yes, thank you for all that you have so generously shared here and shared with me, that I then in turn get to share with others. And that's the gift. And you spoke to something that is very close to my heart, which is healing not only the mother wound, but the sister wound. Right? That sisterhood. We have been gathering in circles since the beginning of time. And we are meant to be with each other and support each other in activating our highest potential, not living in mediocrity. So thank you for being a leader in that movement.
Oh, it's what I'm here for. More for all.
Yay. Yay. All right. All right, everybody. Well, we are going to sign off. Thank you for joining us today. I am Reverend Wendy Silvers. I will make sure that you have all of the information to reach out to me should you want to meet up, and I can support you, and as well as have information to meet with Kendra and her team. So as I say, go forward and know that you are powerful beyond measure, loved beyond description, and a force for good in the world. Peace and many blessings. We'll see you soon.